I always intended for this channel to be counter-programming. I don't like making videos that everyone else is making, but I've talked about this game from the beginning, and I promise to review this when it comes out. I'll just say I've been complaining about my issues with Insomniac's Spider-Man story before it was cool, and this is probably the last video I'm going to make about this game series. I'm trying to keep my channel positive, so I don't intend to make many more videos like this in future. The game has a lot of good because the sandbox was put together by a competent team, but at the core of the story, which is ultimately what matters, is a lot of rot for actual fans of Spider-Man. If you're a Miles Morales fan or you disagree with what I'm about to say, the comment section is all yours. I'm usually very perceptive, but I'm also very hopeful and largely positive, so my positivity ends up clouding my better judgment. Let me explain. All my friends and anyone who has ever watched any of my videos knows that I don't like Miles Morales. At all. I've detailed my reasons in previous Insomniac Spider-Man game videos, so I'll not repeat them again. The moment I saw him in the trailer for the first game, I was immediately unhappy, because I knew what that meant down the road, and my friends can bear me witness. Miles, since his inception in Ultimate Spider-Man, is usually at best a leech on Peter Parker, and I say at best because whenever you see him, he's usually a precursor to replacing Peter. That's one half of my perceptiveness. The other half is my overall critique of the first game. If you were to go back and watch my previous videos, I was completely baffled by the decision to speedrun through Spider-Man's rogues in the first game. If you want to fact check me, go to my review of the first game at 22 minutes and 52 seconds. In their first outing, Insomniac introduced and had Spider-Man get into conflict with Fisk, Shocker, Otto Octavius, Norman Osborn, Tombstone, Mr. Negative, Scorpion, Electro, Vulture, Rhino, and Silver Sable, not to mention side appearances by Taskmaster, Black Cat, and Screwball, then killed Aunt May, foreshadowed Harry Osborn as Venom, turned sweet lovable Yuri Watanabe from honorable cop to vengeful vigilante in a really dark turn of events, introduced Hammerhead, fake killed Black Cat, turned Hammerhead into a cyborg, and then killed him, with no regard for fans of Hammerhead. I wasn't happy at how rushed Peter's introductory game was, and I couldn't understand why they were overusing his villains in the first game. It was my understanding that they were building out a game series, so I was wondering why they were not saving villains for later. And here is where my hopefulness clouds my better judgment. Miles plus speed running through Peter's rogues obviously means that they had no intention of building a game series around Peter.
Gotta be honest, little jealous.
Hey, look, I got nothing on the OG.
In retrospect, it's so obvious, but at the time I clearly trusted Insomniac so much, to the point where I could not see what was right in front of me. And if you watch the video where I reviewed the game trailer for the sequel, I couldn't understand why they were changing the face models for Peter and MJ. I even thought this sequel was set 10 years later because of how different MJ looked. Some people were telling me to get over Peter's new face, but most people were saying MJ doesn't look that different. Now, having seen the whole game, we know that to be a lie. And there are some theories around self-inserts and the like which appear to be true, but I have a different theory. The thing I noted was that Miles was the only consistent character model. Call me a conspiracy theorist, but how else do you break the audience's familiarity or attachment to a character and shift them towards a different character? You have to make the character they love and have invested in to be unrecognizable to the audience and break that connection that they already established. Whether this was intentional or a byproduct of another goal that I just can't see, the end product is the same. Insomniac were only interested in maintaining Miles' appearance among the three game leads. And I feel like such a fool for having not seen all the writing that was clearly on the wall. I don't do bandwagon content, so I'm not jumping on a trend here. I'm just pointing out that there were a lot of signs early which I noticed, but I didn't want to believe them at the time. The sad reality today is our favorite fictional characters have become a foot in the door device. They're used to pull in an audience and get them invested, then they can switch into whatever agenda they have once you're invested. This is another thing I started telling my friends early on, but some of them either like this deceptive method of telling stories, or they wouldn't believe me until the activists came for their favorite characters.
Give people stuff you know they want, so you can inject things that maybe they aren't familiar with or maybe they don't know they want, but make them like that stuff.
I always said Miles is the worst thing that ever happened to Peter Parker and fans of Peter Parker. If you're a fan of Miles, good for you. You're getting what you want. But if you're a fan of Peter like me, I'm sorry. This is permanent now. As the saying goes, once you take toothpaste out of the tube, there's no putting it back. Miles and Peter cannot coexist because Miles is a downgraded version of Peter and serves no real purpose until you get rid of Peter, or as you started to see in the sequel, make the student outshine the master.
It's Miles kind of saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I don't know if you guys caught this, when the mission, the second last mission where they show up, Pete's in the anti-venom and Miles has his new suit. And Miles is telling Pete about what his dad and what May would say. And then at one point, Pete goes, "What's the play, coach?"
Oh, yeah.
That's what Miles says to Pete near the end of Spider-Man 1. So they flip.
Oh, awesome.
They flip. Now Miles is the one kind of saying, he's kind of not handing the baton, but saying, "Hey, I'm going to listen to you now."
In the first game's DLC, he was an inferior nuisance to Peter who kept calling and asking the most basic questions.
Okay, quiz time. If a pendulum is 40 meters long and attached at a 45-degree angle, how far will the pendulum fall at its lowest point?
11.72 meters. But why does that matter?
It matters a lot if you're the pendulum.
What? Oh! Wait, so you do all these equations in your head like while you're swinging through the city?
I have to. And so will you if you want to get good at it.
Wow, I had no idea.
In the Miles Morales game, they started to not so subtly make Peter need Miles. Peter, who had taken on the Sinister Six as well as Scorpion and Rhino at the same time during a gameplay mission, suddenly could not handle Rhino alone and kept calling Miles for help.
Hey, Miles! I'm gonna need a hand up here! We're going to stop him, as long as we work together! Mind giving me a hand up here?
Okay, Pete. Yeah, I got this.
Take it away, careful! Whoa! Now or never, Miles! We gotta stop him! We gotta bring him down, fast!
Yeah.
Then he got knocked out and Miles took care of Rhino on his own. By the second game, we weren't even pretending anymore. Miles is now somehow better than Peter and can even beat a Venom-powered version of him, and by the end of it, we just don't need Peter anymore.
I got this. All of it. Go be Peter Parker for a while.
Are you sure? It's a big city.
I can handle it.
And this is not even one of those stories where Peter is old and can't do it anymore. It's just a transparent message that Peter is out and Miles is in. Deal with it. My original intention, which I mentioned when I reviewed the trailer, was to review the entire story again from Spider-Man 1 to Miles Morales to this second game and evaluate all of it as a whole. I'll not be doing that anymore. And credit where credit is due. The Miles Morales game was actually serviceable, but Miles is such a nothing character. He's not perceptive, he's not funny, he's not street smart, he's not socially savvy, he's not a genius like Peter, he has no unique quality that makes him stand out, and he is so reliant on another nothing character in Ganke. What is this obsession with bad superhero characters and the man in the chair trope, or giving an independent hero unnecessary sidekicks? But that just goes to show Miles from his inception is half the character Peter is, so Peter's role has to be split between two nothing characters when he's not around, with Miles and Ganke putting their heads together for things that Peter would usually do alone. The only redeeming factors in that Miles Morales game were his relationship with the gender-bent Tinkerer, who had to carry him like a princess at the end of the game, and his uncle, the Prowler. Everything else felt like a waste of time. The truth is, Insomniac's Miles Morales is a background character, let's just be honest, and he got elevated to a main character status that he did not earn. And even worse still, everything about the writing when he's around just feels like...
How do you do, fellow kids?
It's so boring and soft and milquetoast and sanitized. It feels like it was written by people who live in a bubble for people who live in a bubble.
We've got preventative contraception information.
Please consult your parents and your primary care physician.
They'll help you find what's right for you.
If you look at the character they have written and try to reconcile him with the swinging animations they've given him, and this attempt at a neighborhood cool kid persona, None of it adds up. Miles in the Spider-Verse animated movies is a cool hip-hop loving popular neighborhood kid. This Miles is just not. And it's probably something they realized after the fact, because Into the Spider-Verse came out after they had already created their version of Miles, and they probably wanted to add this cool kid aspects to his persona, but it was already a bit too late. They had created a nerd because they were copying Peter from the beginning, and so Miles had nothing else to go on outside of being a less interesting, less funny version of Peter. I said it in one of my videos, Miles could have been a really cool addition to the Marvel universe if he had nothing to do with Spider-Man. If he was just this kid with his own unique powers with the electricity and the cloaking and maybe even super athleticism, who even teams up with Spider-Man from time to time if you must, I would have been perfectly accepting of such a character. But this blatant disdain for Peter Parker and the desperate desire to replace him just kills off any willingness from me to either consciously or subconsciously invest in the character, added to the fact that I already hate duplicates and redundancies. Why do we have two Spider-Men at all?
The other thing we talked a lot about is this is a story of two Spider-Men. Why does this story demand having two Spider-Men? And there's multiple times where I know I said to myself, I go, why did I say we should do two heroes? Why? And then, but you ask yourself that, and then you realize you're asking yourself because it's the tough thing to do. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
And some people are trying to argue that Peter is not being replaced. Those people are just not paying attention. Can Spider-Man ever be mentioned in the mainstream today without the inclusion of Miles? Is that even possible? Miles is being forced as hard as Kamala Khan, so Peter will never be the sole Spider-Man in any property again. He'll always have to leave space on the side for Miles, and this will always mean diminishing him and making him either share the spotlight with a parasite on his legacy or just getting him out of the way entirely. Another big problem about Insomniac's approach to this sequel is they turn the reason everyone is coming to this games into the bad guy, and that's Spider-Man, so that they can prop up a side character to preach about an issue that the writer thinks is important.
Our life together! I promised you I'd be better, but I wasn't! I should have listened! I should have been there! I never want your life to be worse, to make mine better! Your dreams are just as important as mine! I'm sorry, MJ! I took you for granted!
Just want to stay the stronger half! What? Don't feel special anymore?
What? No! You're stronger than me in so many ways! We've been single-handedly holding our lives together!
I can't imagine that any level-headed person would envision a positive outcome from this, unless that person is stuck in a bubble or an echo chamber and they think this is the prevailing consensus among their audience. But that's just rule number one. You don't attack or diminish the character that everybody likes to prop up another ancillary character and have the audience take to that ancillary character. That pretty much guarantees that the audience will hate the character that you're trying to manipulate them to like.
I'm the hero here, not you.
The only reason to do it would be spite and defiance, in which case you actually didn't think that would work. You just decided to selfishly trample over the character that people were buying the game for. I don't know anyone who went to buy Spider-Man 2 and said, "Ooh, I cannot wait to play as MJ." This is all just so crazy. I grew up in the 80s and 90s and I have never seen anything like this before. And I'm not so far into this culture war going on in YouTube that I think this is normal. I'm still on the outside, completely baffled that this is the state of modern entertainment. And to think my biggest concern when they announced this game was Venom. It's completely hilarious now when I look back at it. And just so we're clear, I'm all for the spirit of inclusivity, but it has to be done in a way that does not feel so disingenuous. The key telltale sign that agenda has taken over story is inconsistency. After the first game, and even the Miles Morales game, all my misgivings aside, you know this team knows how to tell a story. Very similar to the Marvel Cinematic Universe's first 2.5 phases. Everything seems thought through, cared for, and consistent. But when we get to this new game, suddenly things start feeling like Phase 4 because they don't quite connect. Peter is saying incredibly cringy, politically correct things in the name of comedy when he was quite witty initially.
I think I'm gonna start a petition. Replace all the gun clubs with something better. like a compliment club. Compliments don't hurt anyone, and they're free.
Multiple villains are being killed off camera.
You just killed every other villain in your universe.
Black Cat has no interaction with Spider-Man and is instead talking to Miles over some very half-baked excuse that the writers came up with, and talking about saving her girlfriend in Paris, when in the first game she would put Peter in harm's way and did not care what happens to him, and didn't care about anyone else, but suddenly she's such a caring person because she has a girlfriend and everyone is bi now, I guess. Tombstone also has a nebulous redemption arc with no real purpose behind it. Wraith is not even the same character from the first game, with no interest from the writers in bridging the gap between our partner in the first game and this new bloodlusty vigilante who in such a short span of time suddenly has Spider-Man level powers and takes endless punches from Spider-Man, like the Tinkerer in the Miles game, and on and on and on it goes. Consistency was just tossed out the window. I won't even be surprised if they launch a Wraith spin-off game as their DLC for this game. And this time I'm not so blinded by fandom to miss the fact that Peter and everything connected to him is being phased out. But even that is not speculative anymore because they've just come out and said it, the future of the franchise is Miles. And curiously enough, if they were genuinely making games for the fans have spoken, and the Miles game sold 5 times less than what the first Spider-Man game sold. 5 times less. But Miles is the future of the franchise because
behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors.
I'm going to say something that people who hate this game will probably disagree with. I do believe Brian Interher loves the concept of Spider-Man and maybe even for a time loved Peter Parker when he was younger. I don't see him as a talentless hack like a lot of other activists who are in Hollywood, but Brian seems to be bound by some guilt around social politics and representation that he let all that other stuff control the vision and the storytelling for this universe.
Because, I'm always scared. I'm like, am I going to offend somebody? Am I doing this? Are we doing something wrong? The last thing I would ever want to do is to try to do something great and then it offends somebody.
And the game ultimately suffers for it, whether you're one of the people who enjoyed the game or not. Even the people who like this game complained about the uneven pacing, and there's an obvious reason for that now that Brian chose to be so open.
We knew we had to make her more of a proactive, capable person. And if she's a little OP, I don't give a shit. She's fine. I don't care. I wanted her. I felt like it would be taking the easy way out if we didn't make her play. To the point where I said, we're going to do it. I don't care. We'll cut other stuff because I want to make sure that it's important to show her be a capable hero. To the point where I said, we're going to do it. I don't care. We'll cut other stuff because we're going to do it. I don't care. We'll cut other stuff because.
And this obsession with making secondary characters as important as the primary characters is such a weird, new narcissistic thing. Like, when has the point of MJ ever been that she needs to be a hero?
It's important to show her be a capable hero.
Not everything has to be about everyone. We don't all have to get a trophy. Sometimes in a franchise that has historically been targeted at and supported by men, the priority does not need to be turning his love interest into an action hero. There are several important roles that she can play without breaking our suspension of disbelief and turning her into Mary Jane Wick. Several movies and shows at this point will show you that men do not spend money on that and women do not support that either. The vast majority of men and women do not have the same power fantasy, and you are catering to nobody when you do this to characters. I'm honestly so tired of the current state of entertainment. As you're pursuing inclusivity, it's important to understand that not everybody can or will be exceptional. That's just life, and we need to stop pretending that everyone must be special. A lot of people will not stand out, and majority of the people on this planet will never have the spotlight, and that's okay. We all have different roles to play. We're not as important as some of us like to think we are, and this delusion is what's creating a society of internet personality monsters.
You only caught me because I wanted you to catch me! Look how many followers I gained! Yes!
If the game is about Spider-Man, make it about Spider-Man. If the show is about the Flash, make it about the Flash.
You are not the Flash, Barry. We are.
If you want to represent marginalized groups, make good new content and people will flock to it. Stop hijacking existing franchises and holding fan bases hostage. If you created legitimately cool and interesting characters and put half the energy behind them that you put into marketing Miles and Kamala Khan, you would have massive universally celebrated characters, as opposed to this culture war nonsense. I did not sign up for this, I just wanted to be entertained. But let's bring it back down. Unlike you, Insomniac Games, I'm not here to preach. What I'll say is, I've recently noticed how easy it's become for me to dump properties that I once loved. Marvel always had my money on day one with the MCU. In fact, I became synonymous with Marvel movies among my friends. But now I'll not even waste time watching a pirated copy of any of their content because it's just not worth my eyes and ears. When Insomniac Spider-Man was announced all those years back, I was beside myself with excitement. Now I couldn't even be bothered to play this game. And I most certainly did not play the Miles Morales game either. I just watched the gameplay videos on YouTube because I'll not give my money to this. I was also a day one purchaser of Rockstar games. I would spend literally hours online consuming speculative content about what the game will have or won't have, what exciting new features Rockstar might include. But now I'm the least excited GTA fan for GTA 6. I pretty much just play GTA 3, Vice City and San Andreas because I know those are pure entertainment. They were made with a singular vision and the only agenda was to entertain. If GTA 6 carries on this gaming trend, because I've already heard rumors about their writing room, I'll just keep it pushing. But if they subvert my expectations and have an actual good story in GTA 6, I'll eventually get it. And I say eventually because in this current year of entertainment, I will never be an early adopter. And also you cannot be disappointed if you have no expectations to begin with. And it's shocking to me but very liberating at the same time how easy it has become for me to detach from these properties. I love Spider-Man. Everyone who knows me knows that. But if they want to keep treating the character the way they have been, it will not kill me to walk away from him as well. It will probably save me a lot of money actually. I'll just switch back to creative mode and finish some of my own comic books, which are in advanced stages of creation with original black characters, mind you. I'm not hijacking someone else's hard work. In the infinite words of Thanos,
fine. I'll do it myself.
And in the words of a famous internet bad boy, I will never do to my characters what the mainstream is doing to our beloved properties. I'd rather be drawing and writing anyway than engaging in this content online drama. So that's me. I'm old, I'm a dinosaur, you and your Zoomer audience win. Honestly, you can have Spider-Man. But you only need to look at current year Disney to see the writing on the wall. And now that I got all that out of my system, I'll resume talking about things I actually like. See you in the next one. Peace.